Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. Welcome to another session of Indian Economy Essentials. And in today's session, let's have a discussion regarding the concept of evergreening of loans. Now, the reason why we are discussing this topic today is that yesterday in one of the meetings, the Reserve Bank of India's governor has warned all the banks not to follow or not to continue evergreening of the loans. Now, what is this concept of evergreening of loans? Let's try and understand. Now, let's start with the basics here. Imagine here is a bank. The bank will provide loan to a customer. So, the bank will provide loan to a customer. And if the customer will repay the loan promptly, then this is called as a standard asset. This is referred to as a standard asset. Now, this is point number one. Point number two, same example with a slight change. The bank will provide loan to the customer, but this customer, let's say a company, doesn't have sufficient amount of money to repay the loan. So, the repayment will not be done by the company. Now, whenever the repayment is not done, that is, there is a default on the repayment of the loan, the bank will wait for the next 90 days, and after 90 days time period is over, the bank will simply classify this loan as a non-performing asset. NPA, non-performing asset. And once the asset is classified as a non-performing asset, the company can be dragged to NCLT. And second very important point in this context itself, that is the bank will have to make more provisions in order to absorb the losses that it might incur in the coming days. Now, first point is very clear. The bank, in order to make a recovery, can take action against a company. That's point number one. But the second point is that the bank has to make certain provisions. Now, what do you mean by the provisions here? The bank would have collected certain amount of money, that is, let's say capital. Part of this money has to be used by the bank, that is, it has to be kept aside by the bank. And this money that is kept aside now is called as a provision. In a simple terms, for the loans which are given by the banks, because the loans are risky, the banks might incur losses in the future. In order to absorb these losses, in order to address these losses, the banks will keep aside certain amount of money. This is called as provisioning. So, whenever the loans are classified as an NPA, the provisioning requirement for the loans automatically will increase. So, these are the two very important points. Let me go to the third important point here. Same example, the bank is there. Bank, let's say in 2023, I'll take a very simple example by the way. Bank in 2023 has given loan to a company. The company is repaying the loan, but in 2024, for some reasons, the company is unable to make a payment. Right? Imagine the company has incurred losses, or the revenue that is generated by the company is sufficient to take care of operational expenses, but they do not have sufficient amount of money to repay the loan. Which means the company in 2024, right, basically, let's say in the month of January, will stop making the payment, will default on the repayment of the loan. Now, if the bank will wait for 90 days, after 90 days, the bank has to classify this loan as a non-performing asset, then start making more provisions on this loan that they have given to the company. But rather than this, what the bank will do is, bank now in 2024 will issue another loan. Understand this. Bank in 2024 will issue another loan to the same company. And this company which has taken a new loan in 2024 or else second loan in 2024 will use that money to repay the earlier loan. Is it okay? I'll repeat it again. Understand the logic here. The bank has already given a loan in 2023 to a company, but in 2024 the company is unable to make a repayment. Why? Let's say the company has earned a certain amount of money, but this money is sufficient for the company to take care of their operational expenses. Right? For example, payment of salaries of the workers, payment for the raw material which is supplied, etc. But that money is not sufficient to make the loan repayment. That is, in simple terms, money is not sufficient to pay off the debt that they owe to the bank. In such cases, if 90 days a default is done, the account has to be classified as an NPA. But rather than this, the bank will issue one more loan, second loan in 2024. The company will take the second loan, use the money to repay the earlier loan. Now, two very important points here. The new loan which is given in order to maintain the asset as a standard. I'll repeat. The new loan which is given by the same bank, same creditor or a creditor to the same borrower here to ensure that the asset quality will not deteriorate, asset quality will not become NPA, it will still remain standard. This is called as evergreening. This is referred to as evergreening of loans. And on the other hand, the company which is not having sufficient amount of money to repay the debt, it has sufficient amount of money just to take care of their operational expenses. These are called as zombie companies. These are referred to as zombies. What is the meaning of a zombie company or a zombies? Zombies are such companies which have just a sufficient amount of money to take care of their operational expenditure, but not sufficient to pay off the debt that they owe to the lender or the creditor in the market. So whenever the companies will keep on taking these loans to repay existing loans and ensure that the asset quality will not come down, this is called as evergreening of loans. Now, what is the problem with this? The banks on one side say, we have to provide this kind of facility, again, anonymous sources, right, in certain situations. Otherwise, what will happen is the company's account will come non-performing asset. There could be situations where the company is not able to earn sufficient amount of money. We need to provide extension of help to such a company in order to promote recovery, in order to promote, right, continue the operations of the company so that they will be able to repay the loan in the future. This is the viewpoint of bankers. But on the other side, there is a very important concern related to this. What's a very important concern? If the company doesn't repay the loan, then the account has to be classified as an NPA. The bank has to make provisions now. The provision requirement will increase. And more importantly, what are the NPAs in a bank? If you look at how much of the loans given by the bank are becoming NPA, what is the value of the NPAs? That will represent how much is the stress in the financials of the bank. The value of the stressed assets will give an indicator of how much or what is the financial position of a bank. By evergreening of the loans, by the banks following the concept of evergreening of the loans, now you will not be able to find out what is the actual financial position of the bank. The stress in the banking sector or a particular bank will not be revealed. And more importantly, by evergreening, the provisioning requirement by the bank, which should have been higher now, will be maintained at a same level or at a lower level. So these are some of the very important points which are a point of concern regarding evergreening of such loans. And it is not the first time that the RBI governor is talking about evergreening of loans in a banking sector. There have been many situations even in the past. For example, when Mr. Raghuram Rajan was the RBI governor, during his governorship, there was one exercise conducted by Reserve Bank of India, Asset Quality Review. In short, AQR, Asset Quality Review. And the reason why Asset Quality Review was conducted at that point of time was to find out whether the banks are following proper guidelines, whether are they violating the norms and going for evergreening of the loans, are they hiding the quality or let's say the stress that their assets are experiencing, etc., etc. So there is already instances in the past, examples of many banks or let's say some of the banks doing this, following this principle of evergreening to hide the stress in their bank's balance sheet. So this is basically the discussion regarding the idea of evergreening. Now in the context of the exams, if you look at the trend of the exams, is there any ratio? You must have heard of a ratio, right? The questions being asked in the exams on the concept of a ratio. Is there any ratio which will tell you is there or if this company is going to become a zombie company, or if the company is performing very well, etc., etc. Please remember the name of the ratio. There is a ratio by the name of interest coverage ratio, ICR, interest coverage ratio. And many lenders and even for NLSs, interest coverage ratio is looked at, and the interest coverage ratio will tell how much revenue, how much money is there with the companies to repay their existing, right, loan liabilities. Generally, the formula is simple. You will write in the numerator EBITDA, right, that is EBITDA, right. You will write in the numerator EBITDA, and in the denominator you will simply write interest. Again, you can have a discussion regarding the numerator and denominator separately, but as far as I am concerned, this is more than sufficient to understand, or let's say remember, for the civil service examination. So interest coverage ratio will give you a very good idea about whether this company is becoming a zombie company or not. And when this interest coverage ratio will start declining, when it will start falling, it is not a good indicator for a company. So these are certain very important points regarding the concept of evergreening of the loans. Now based on this, a MCQ. Consider the following statements. Statement 1. The banks will be able to mask the stress in their finances by evergreening of the loans. Statement 1 is correct. Statement 2. The evergreening of the loans will increase the provisioning requirements for the banks. Statement 2 is wrong. Statement 1 is correct, because under the evergreening, if a bank will go for evergreening, it will not have to classify the loan as an NPA, so the provisioning requirement will not be very high. So in this statement it says evergreening will increase the provisioning requirement. Statement 2 is wrong. So obviously option A and option B you cannot use it, because it says both the statements are correct. So both A and B are wrong. Statement 1 is correct, but statement 2 is incorrect. Right option for the question will be option C here. And so these are certain very important points regarding the concept of evergreening. If you like these initiatives, please hit the like button. Provide your valuable comments in the section below. And if you yet to subscribe to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS YouTube channel, kindly do it right now. Thank you. Have a great day.